Hello everyone, this is Keith Jackson and welcome to Jack's Math Notebook. In this video, we're just going to understand the meaning of inequalities. So let's go right into it with x is greater than 5. And as you can see right here, when x is greater than 5, we'll use an open circle. And we know that x is greater than 5, meaning that x can be any number that is greater than 5. And look how this arrow is going to the right, which means that X could be 6, it can be 7, it could be 8, it can be 1,000. And the good news is this, because that arrow is pointing in the right direction, we can see that now X is greater than 5. That's what this meaning is. So when we put it on a number line, we know exactly where that arrow is going. And again, X is to the right of 5, just as this arrow is indicating. Again, noticing that we have an open circle. And let's take a look at this one right here in which we have, okay, x is greater than or equal to 5. And all we have to do in this case is just shade in a circle because we have that equal sign, meaning that x can be 5 itself, or it could be greater than 5. Keeping in mind that it cannot be less than 5. It cannot be 4, it cannot be 3, cannot be negative 85. Okay, and notice again that we have a shaded circle right here. And let us move on to our next example, because now that allows us to compare and contrast it to greater than, because we're looking at less than right here. And so in this case, we have x is less than 4, meaning that the arrow is going to be pointed in the direction to the left right here. And notice the open circle because x is less than 4. Let me repeat that x is less than 4, which means that it could be any number less than 4, but it cannot be any number greater than 4. It cannot be 6, 7, 25, or 56 or something like that. It can only be less than 4 that you see right here. And notice the open circle. Just like you see right here with greater than, less than it applies with an open circle as well, but keeping in mind that this arrow is pointing in the direction going toward the left. Now let's take a look at less than or equal to, in which we have x is less than or equal to 4. And this time, all we're doing is shading in the circle, keeping in mind that that arrow is still pointing toward the left. Notice again that the circle is shaded, and that's very significant because that lets your teacher know that you understand that in this case, it is less than or equal to, meaning that x could be 4 or less than 4. Right here, x cannot be 4 for less than. It can only be less than 4. And let's move on to our final example in which we're going to use an actual inequality to solve. And so we have a negative 12 is greater than a minus 8. And if you remember from previous videos, all we have to do is just find a way to turn the number that is on the same side as the letter into 0. And in this case, we're going to have to add 8 to both sides. And so we add 8 to both sides, we get our magic 0 right here. And in this case, a negative 12 plus a will give us a negative 4. And so we have a negative 4 is greater than a. And that's kind of awkward to read. And so what we like to do is put that variable on the left side so we can read it better. And so we can chart it on the number line better. And so we have a is less than negative 4. And that probably looks a little bit awkward to you because you're wondering, how did you get from here to here? Well, you see this inequality symbol, how the point is pointed right at the A? All we're going to do is just point it right at the A. Just keep it pointing at the A and then put the negative 4 right over here. Now it's easier to read because we can put the open circle right above negative 4. And now we know that A is any number that is to the left of negative 4, keeping in mind that we still have that open circle. Now let's take a look at that same inequality with a slight difference. Because see, now right here, we have a greater than or equal to sign, and we're going to see how it applies right here. We're going to do the same thing as we did above here, in which we're going to add 8 to both sides to get that 0 on the same side as the variable or the letter right here. And so in this case, we have a negative 4 is greater than or equal to a, but it's very awkward to look at. And so let's write it with the letter on the left side of the inequality, which will make it a whole lot easier to read, keeping in mind that we're just going to point the inequality symbol right at the A, just like it did here. We're just going to do the same thing right here. And so now we have A is less than or equal to a negative 4. We're just going to put our shaded circle right above that -4, and we're going to draw that arrow going to the left. Okay, you have been given a lot of information, and I wouldn't blame you if you need to pause the video to take a look at these 6 big examples, or replay this video as many times as you need to gain a deeper understanding of this concept. But in the meantime, please comment, share, like, and subscribe to Jack's Math Notebook for more content. Thank you and goodbye.